Hello, welcome to Hands-on Tarot, where I show you the many ways you can use tarot for more than just divination and help you grow your tarot practice. I'm Susie Gourlay, and I've been using tarot for many years to create my future rather than just predict it. Today we are going to be looking at using tarot to connect to the ancestors and make connections with your ancestors. So working with your ancestors can be a very rewarding experience. You'll learn a lot about your lineage and even yourself along the way. And in this podcast, we're going to be using the tarot to discover connections and look for emerging patterns. So ancestral connection has been very important to me the last little bit. This year, I've actually, for Christmas, my husband bought me an ancestry DNA test. I haven't received it yet, but I'm really looking forward to doing that and seeing what comes out. In the Awakened Soul Coven that I belong to, I'm in the Crone Circle this year, and my year-long project is going to be genealogy and a bit more ancestor veneration, which I kind of began the last couple years. So I'm going to discuss how we can use tarot to connect with our ancestors or gain insight. And today I'm using the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot. It's a really beautiful, kind of old-looking tarot, which I find works really well for connecting with people of the past. The spread that we're going to start with is from Ancestral Tarot by Nancy Hendrickson. As you can see, I have a lot of flags in different areas. It's a book that I go to quite often. But this first spread that we're going to talk about is the Journey spread. So if you want to pick out 7 cards or shuffle your deck, pick out 7 cards. We are going to be starting on the left here, working our way around. So card number 1, which is this one, is where I'm at today. So the card that I pulled here is the 5 of Cups. So that's telling me, I'm feeling some grief, some sorrow, some loneliness, maybe a bit of struggle. I'm looking for more information in the aspect of the spread that I'm doing today. I'm looking to find some sort of connection to people of the past. I really love how in this image we do see a skull on the ground here, which I think is a really great connection to start this spread. You may also notice that I'm not using reversals. I don't normally read with reversals. I look to see whether cards around them, whether there's tension or agreement, and I'll read cards that way. So that's how I use my reversals. Card number 2 here, so the bridge I'll be crossing to meet the ancestors, and I have the Hanged Man. So this is kind of an interesting card, card number 12 here. So for me, what I'm seeing here, the bridge that, oh, sorry, cat coming to visit. The bridge that I see, or the bridge that I'll be crossing to meet the ancestors is one where I need to either, take a bit of a break and really look at things from a different perspective. Obviously, I need to look at people during the time that they lived and not put my, 21st century goggles on when I'm studying these people, and to understand them in the time that they lived. So I think I need to take that into perspective and to also, while going deeper into my ancestry research, to meet them at the level that they come to me in. They're obviously not born in the same time as I am, so I need to keep that in mind. What do the ancestors think of me? So card number 3 here, and I have Judgment. So it's nice that I have 2 major arcana cards right off the bat here. So the ancestors think of me as someone who could perhaps provide them with a second chance, someone who will maybe bring new life to them. Memories can serve as this way. When we think of people or talk of people from the past, we are kind of making them more alive in the time. So I think I am kind of this person that's looking into them, studying more about them, learning their lives, learning their names, and kind of giving them new life in that way. What do I think of the ancestors? So card number 4 here, and I have the 7 of Cups. So where I'm coming is from an area of being probably very overwhelmed. I have a lot to work through. I'd started making my tree on Ancestry, and it has become very large, and I am quite overwhelmed, but also very curious, delving into it. So I don't want to be too hasty in, you know, either passing judgment or making decisions, but I do want to look at each aspect. And it's interesting that these cups are kind of formed in a tree as well. You know, it kind of reminds me of the family tree. I also see a connection with the branch at the bottom ground here connecting to the first card. So I think I will see, you know, I will be able to relieve some of that loneliness and some of that grief by meeting these ancestors in the family tree. Card number 5 at the side here. So what is the goal of my journey? And I have the 2 of Swords. So this is telling me that there is a decision to be made. I am definitely thinking about it. I may not be communicating as well as I should. I actually don't have it narrowed quite down as to why I'm doing this for my Crone project and how I'm going to organize it and structure it. So I do need to make that decision myself. With the eclipse of the moon here, we see those hidden emotions kind of coming to the surface. So I don't want to leave anybody out, I guess, when I'm searching, but I might want to just follow, you know, a mother line or one specific line within my family tree specifically for this project. So I think that's what this could represent. Card number 6, the Unexpected, and here I have the 3 of Pentacles. And I notice my bottom 2 cards here are both 3s. And 3s are a number of community, of support. They're a very social number. So I am very glad to see that number within this spread, because that is what I'm trying to commit to, make a community and a support within my ancestors. But the Unexpected, this 3 of Pentacles here, so that is a teamwork, a collaboration. So I think, not that this will come easy for me, but it is something that I'll be able to create an inertia, a momentum to keep me going when I see that I'm able to, you know, work with my ancestors on a different level, and that'll help me keep going and create that that material realm connection that I'm really looking for. You know, where I can, you know, contact or use my ancestors on a way that brings them into the earthly realm here. And finally, card number 7 is how will Ancestral Tarot affect my life? And I have the 3 of Swords. And, you know, overall that might look like a difficult card, especially considering it's right beside the 5 of Cups here. So both represent, you know, grief, sorrow, heartbreak. But I think what this might do is help heal that. With the rain coming down from the clouds, it's that release of emotion. We do need to feel our feelings. And I think, especially on something that concerns our life and our family and our ancestors, that there definitely will be emotion involved. This may not be something that I outwardly express and communicate with other people. It'll probably be mostly in my thoughts, but it'll also definitely be affecting my heart as well. So I think Ancestral Tarot will bring perhaps some trauma healing, perhaps some shadow work necessary to work through, but I think it'll be something that will definitely create a big impact in my life. So I am glad to see that card. So I will pop this spread in the notes if you want to give it a try. It's a great way to start your ancestral connection. It's the first spread within that Ancestral Tarot book. So I highly recommend you starting out with that and kind of seeing where your journey will bring you. So when talking about ancestors, there are a whole bunch of different ways that we can look at ancestors. So I did want to just describe different types of ancestors with you. There are ancestors of blood, so those who share our genetic material. Of course, these people you may know, like your grandfather or your great aunt, those sorts of people, but you also may not know them. While going through my ancestry, I realized that obviously I don't know the names of a lot of the people in my family tree, so I may not know these people at all. There are ancestors of those who were adopted. So if you don't know where you come from specifically, there are definitely people out there that are within your family lineage. There are ancestors of place. These are ancestors from your family's place of origin. So I have discovered I have lots of family from Ireland and Scotland. So these would be, I could go to Scotland and feel a connection to the people there, even though I haven't lived there myself. There are ancestors of time. So if you believe in reincarnation, these could be ancestors from different lives or past lives that you've experienced. And I've been actually reading a book, which will help me also get into this magical mediumship by Danielle Dion, and she mentions different ancestors as well. So I just wanted to go through those. So we did talk about the ancestors of blood, ancestors of nurture. So those are people that are connected to us, that have sustained us during parts of our lives. So these could be people, friends or teachers or mentors, and we can use them as an ancestor. Ancestors of affinity, so people that we feel a strong kinship to. This could definitely be somebody that you felt connected to and you've continued to grow by, for example, I'm thinking Oscar Wilde. He's somebody that I've really admired and someone who I've read a lot upon. So I may consider him an ancestor of affinity, because he's somebody that stands for something that I feel passionate about, and he's somebody that I've studied a lot, so he might be one of my ancestors of affinity. Ancestors of place we discussed. There's ancestors of tradition, so it could be if you are a witch, for example, it could be people who also follow that same tradition as you, or any other tradition that you follow. It could be somebody, down the line. For example, they mentioned spiritualism in here. I'm a big fan of Sherlock Holmes, and Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote Sherlock Holmes, was big into spiritualism. So I may consider, him an ancestor of tradition as well. The mighty dead, she mentions these as enlightened people, including saints, historic figures from mythology, and ascended masters. The hidden company has roots in another traditional witchcraft group, so the term has grown in popularity and is used interchangeably with the mighty dead. So again, kind of like those ascended masters and well-known enlightened beings. There is also the forgotten dead. Actually, before we start with the forgotten dead, the mighty dead for myself, my maiden name is Wallace, so that might be somebody like William Wallace who fought for Scotland's freedom. He might be considered the mighty dead for myself. And the forgotten dead are those people who are part of our ancestral line, but they may have, had a difficult life or caused problems, and we have kind of moved away from them, or they have kind of disappeared from the family. So they are still part of our ancestral lineage, so it's important to honor them and elevate them as well. And then she mentions other types of dead. So these are our different spirits who we may or may not want to work with while we are doing our ancestral connections. So those are just different types of ancestors that I wanted to discuss. Another aspect of ancestry that may not get talked about that much, but it's one that I study quite a bit, is animal ancestry. So since I don't have children, my animals are my kids, and when I have a animal that has passed away, I add them to my ancestor altar so that they are part of a revered love that I show for them and continue to venerate them after they passed on. So there's those animal ancestors as well. So when you're doing tarot work with ancestors, I thought, choosing the right deck to work with is kind of an important aspect. So there are a couple decks that I use. So as I had mentioned, the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot, I like it for ancestor work just because it has kind of an old manuscript look to it. I feel it kind of looks medieval to me as well. So I feel it's a great one to work with the ancestors with. I also have the Tarot of Unknown Shadows that I work with when doing spirit readings. And the reason I like it is because the pictures are old. For example, this first one here, the Nine of Swords, it's an old photograph. And I think this really helps kind of bridge that connection with the ancestors. So I use this one quite often when doing tarot readings with spirit. Another one that I've received in the past recently is this Ancestral Oracle of the Celts. I am Celtic. I do have a Celtic lineage, so this one drew me to it right away. I do have an article or a post on my blog using this deck to help venerate a forgotten dead. And these are all different archetypes within Celtic mythology and whatnot. So, and you can use this to help heal traumas or connect. I've been using this to connect with the forgotten dead. I also use the Spirit Keeper's Tarot by Benebel. This deck was kind of made specifically to use for that kind of connection. So you can see there's a lot of the archetypes within this deck, and we had discussed archetypes in the last podcast. But this one is really great for doing past life reading or, ancestral reading as well. So I really, really like this one. And she has built a lot into this deck that makes it very special. And finally, the last deck that I use for spirit communication is the Spirit Cats deck by Nicole, Piar. As I had mentioned, my pets. So I've had 2 cats that passed away, and they're very special to me. So I use the Spirit Cats deck to connect with them and help with grief and working through all that encompasses a loss of an animal. So this is such a very thoughtful oracle deck. So if you are drawn to cats, this is one that I really recommend. So when choosing a deck to work with your ancestors, you can choose culturally based decks. For example, the Ancestral Path Tarot, which I think is similar to this. No, it's not. I'm thinking of a different one, sorry. You can look for spirit-based decks, which I had showed you a couple. You can look for decks that are related to your own lineage or family or origin, or you can look for decks that are in different languages as well. So if you come from a place that speaks a different language or can speak a different language yourself, you might use those decks to help you connect with those relatives. So ancestral tarot work is often not by the book. You can work more intuitively, so you don't have to know all the meanings of the tarot. You can look at outfits, you can look at facial features, you can look at how, you know, the image makes you feel, you know, what does this remind you of? You can line up your cards and kind of form a scene as well. So definitely you can work more intuitively, and this is also a great time to combine tarot and oracle decks as well. So if you'd like, you can continue. We're going to continue. You can separate your deck into 3 piles. So a pile with the major arcana, a pile of minors, and a pile of court cards. And we'll be using all 3 of these components, and we are going to end up with a basic foundational sense about who the person was that we're calling on. I will give you time to do that. You can pause it now. I won't sort through mine. But the court cards, what they're going to do are show you personality. So the court cards often represent people and personalities within our lives. So using the court cards to kind of, you know, help give you clues about the person that you are connecting with or reaching with, might help you, you know, narrow things down a little bit more. The minor arcana predicts everyday life. So even though they aren't all that big of archetypes showing within the minor arcana, they are still a very important part of ancestral connection. Of course, they make up most of the tarot deck, but they do depict that everyday mundane life, which is a very important part of our, obviously, day-to-day lives, because those little parts of our lives do add up to create a much bigger picture. And finally, the major arcana, which represents that archetypal energy, which we had discussed in the last podcast. You know, like the Emperor for that father figure, and Judgment, the Chariot, the Devil, Death, all those sorts of things. So I'm just about done sorting through mine here. Just give me a couple more moments. So it's kind of a different way also to use your tarot if you're separating your deck into the different aspects and using them in kind of a bit more intentional way. You may not have done that in the past, so this might be something new for you as well. Another hint that might help you with who you're connecting with is using the correspondences of the elements. So for example, if you pull several wands, you could be using or contacting someone who has that fire element and that fire zodiac, like Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So they represent the stuff, you know, that we're really passionate about and the things that, you know, mean a lot to us. If you are seeing a lot of swords, so there's that element of air. So the zodiacs representing air are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. So they are people who are very smart. So they kind of represent the mental stuff of our lives. They're very smart. They're very good with communication. They have a lot of wisdom. They're great to go to for advice, that sort of thing. The cups represent the water element, and these are the zodiacs of Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. So these people represent the emotional stuff. So they might be someone who is very creative, someone who's very nurturing, very giving, could be intuitive or psychic as well, but somebody who has a lot of feeling involved, perhaps wears their heart on their sleeve. And finally, if we see a lot of pentacles, we get that earth element. So Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. So this is that physical stuff. So the things that we can touch and feel and do, you know, not the abstract concepts like thought and those sorts of things, but the, you know, our family, our home, money, our health, those sorts of things. So fire or wands is passion stuff, swords and air is mental stuff, cups and water is emotional stuff, and pentacles and earth is that physical stuff. Okay, so if we are going to just give a bit of a shuffle here. These are my court cards. So I'm going to draw a court card to connect to an ancestor. So the court card I'm drawing is the Page of Swords. So pages are very curious, they're quick learners, and they're eager to experience. So this could be a child of someone that I'm connecting with here. If you draw a king, kings represent clarity of mind. They're very strategic. They're masters of their suit. Traditionally, they're represented by an adult male. That definitely doesn't have to be the case, but just for ease, that's the way that I'm using them. The queens are very receptive, they're truthful, and they're very quietly confident. So they may not outwardly explain themselves, but they definitely inwardly have a wisdom to them. The knights are impatient, easily bored, and usually on a quest. That's not necessarily a bad thing. They just don't think before they act. But they might be doing something because it means a lot to them. So knights usually represent a young person, perhaps a teenager. So I am looking at a court card here. I have my Page of Swords. And now I'm going to draw a minor card. So I'm just going to give these a bit of a shuffle here. And the minors are going to show you the archetypal, the archetypical energy of the person's life. I know this is a little bit different from the majors, which we are going to get to as well. Or sorry, this is my notes here are obviously written wrong, so I am going to pull a major card for the archetype energy. And I have the Magician here, so somebody who is very creative, someone who does like to take action. If you check out my YouTube channel where I'll have a video of this if you're only listening to it, but the Magician and the Page of Swords in this deck here look very similar in their actions, which I think is kind of cool as well. And finally, I will draw a minor card, and based on the number and the suit, this is what will give me a bit more information about the person. And I have pulled the Three of Wands. So the three, as I'd mentioned, celebration, creativity. The wands represent someone who is either an Aries, a Leo, or a Sagittarius. So somebody who is very passionate, which we definitely see across the board here. So if I look at my three cards here, Page of Swords, the Magician, and the Three of Wands, I see a young person who, is very curious, a very quick learner, eager to experience. The Magician, who's all about creation and manifesting and doing, and, is bringing in the eagerness and the curiousness and bringing it down into the physical realm. And with that Wands energy there, creating that, that spark of inspiration where we just must start, something and do it right away, which is a perfect combination with that Magician, because they are a doing archetype and there's someone who does take action. And that Page of Swords is very eager to get learning. So I think this is a very good connection, using the three separate system, or not systems, the 3 separate areas within the tarot to bring about a person here. So I might journal a little bit about this person who is coming up here. And then while I'm researching my ancestry, perhaps I can see who this person might be. And then I can ask more questions as I go along. So when talking about minor cards, I mentioned the 3 here, but if you draw an ace, those represents beginnings or the self. 2s are diplomatic. They represent partnership and a unity, a connection. 3s are about creativity and celebration. I do see an ocean in the back here, which is kind of interesting. I might think about that for a little bit. 4s represent structure and foundation, so it could be somebody who, you know, likes following rules, has a set of rules, and is very organized. 5s are about change and challenge, so they may be somebody who doesn't conform, someone who likes to, you know, ask questions, that sort of thing. 6s are about balance and peace. 7s are about spiritual mastery. So if any of you pull a 7 of any of the suits, it'd be very interesting to see what other cards you get with that one. 8s are about karma and choice, reaping what you sow, kind of your past actions and what led you to where this person is in their life now. 9s are about completion. It could also be representing a humanitarian of sorts. So if you, say, had the King of Pentacles and a 9, those would connect very well. And 10s are about a new cycle and a contentment. So it could be somebody who had, you know, a long life and they completed all of the things that they wanted to within their lives. So that would be a very interesting, you know, just an exercise when connecting with certain ancestors. So there are a couple other spreads within this Ancestral Tarot book. And I just wanted to read them very quickly. This is not something that you have to know what the spread is specifically, but this getting to know you spread is 5 cards. You could literally just line up 5 cards in a row and see the story that it's telling you. The getting to know you spread, so card number 1, how can I open the portal to communicate with this person? And then you can flip a card and see what that answer is. Card number 2, how does this person want to be present in my life? That's a great question to ask. Card number 3, how can I honor this person? Card number 4, what can I learn from this person? So that is one of the main aspects of ancestral connection, is what can we learn from these people? And card number 5, what message does this person have for me at this time? The second spread that I wanted to talk about is the Ancient One spread from this Ancestral Tarot book. So those who are ancestors of blood, but the ancestors from hundreds of years ago, perhaps even thousands of years ago. So you need 3 cards here, 3-card spread. Card number 1, how can I best communicate with the Ancient Ones? Card number 2, what message do the collective or the Ancient Ones have for me? And card number 3, how can I best honor those of my blood who have lived a millennia before me? Excuse me. And the final spread that I wanted to share with you from this book is the saying thank you and goodbye spread. So showing gratitude is a very important aspect, especially when asking for help from spirit, ancestors, anything like that. I'm just going to grab a drink real quick here. One of the biggest aspects that I think a lot of people forget is about showing gratitude. So this spread is called Saying Thank You and Goodbye, and it is a 5-card spread. So card number 1, which ancestor is with me on this journey? If this sounds a bit confusing, you can use either the court cards for this card, or you can use your minor arcana to represent the different element in the suits with the zodiac, which might help you narrow who you're speaking with. Card number 2, what message do you have for me? Card number 3, what lesson can I learn from your life? Card number 4, what strengths have I inherited from you? And card number 5, what can I do in my daily life to honor you? So this might be something that is very simple. It doesn't have to be a very big, grand act. Quite often when giving offerings to ancestors, it could be a food they like. It could be a song that they like. It could be, you know, sharing a drink with them, something along those lines. So I hope you try out at least one of those spreads and see what kind of information comes out for you. So if you're interested in learning about your ancestry, one of the first things you can look up, just kind of for fun, is what's in a name. So you can search your surname and see what the meaning of it is, and you might discover a bit about yourself. So you can go to ancestry.com to discover this, or genealogybank.com are two websites that I found where you can search your surname and find a meaning. It might even be exactly what a job was for somebody. So, you know, a miller, a tailor. It could be, you know, a blacksmith if the last name is Smith. It could represent strength. It could represent peace. It could represent a whole bunch of different things. So it's kind of a fun thing to look up. So one of the things that I'm going to do, since we have our cards separated into 3 piles, is just a 5-card spread about getting to know a certain ancestor. So I have my court cards. I have my major arcana and my minor arcana. So to start this, I am going to pull 3 cards in a row. So card number 1, card number 2, card number 3. There's that Page of Swords again. And then my 4th card is going to be pulled from the Major Arcana. And my 5th card is going to be pulled from my Minor Arcana. Okay, so I have my 5 cards here. I start with the Queen of Cups, Page of Cups, Page of Swords, the Empress, and the 6 of Cups. So I definitely have a motherly energy here and someone who has a lot of feeling with the cups and those mother figures involved here. So card number 1 represents me now as I begin working with this ancestors. So I have the Queen of Cups here. So that's someone who is very gentle, someone who's very nurturing, the mystic. The Queen of Cups is definitely a very giving person, definitely connects with the Empress that I have here. So I am feeling, when I start journeying within my ancestral veneration, someone who really wants to help, someone who really wants to connect and, you know, form connections and relationships with my ancestors. Card number 2 represents the ancestor as they were in life, and I have the Page of Cups here. So this is somebody who is younger, somebody who, you know, is very creative, somebody who wears their heart on their sleeve. They might be, you know, asking a lot of questions. They might be someone who loves to play and make believe. So this is somebody who I may be you know, connecting with as they were in life. So it could be someone who's very childlike as well. someone who's fun to be around and likes to joke. Card number 3 is the relationship with myself as I begin to do this work. So I have the Page of Swords here. So again, this is that eagerness, that curiosity, someone who's looking to learn more, someone who is looking to communicate with my ancestors, and someone who is just starting out with this journey. So the student archetype. So that definitely does represent me here. Card number 4 is our major arcana, so the energy that will best assist my work together with my ancestors, and I have the Empress here. So very much connects with the Queen of Cups, that mother archetype, someone who is, using creativity, somebody who is connecting with, with love and being very gentle and nurturing. Someone who is looking to create that abundance and being able to share it with my ancestors to create a great connection and something that brings abundance to myself as well in the form of riches with connections. And 5 is the message from the ancestor about a hard lesson they learned, but they're hoping to help you with so you don't have to learn that the hard way. And with the 6 of Cups here, that is the card of nostalgia and that inner child. It's interesting that that comes up when the person that I am working with in this spread here has that childlike quality to them. And the warning that they're giving me is about that inner child. So I think a lot of that has to do with inner child work, or perhaps, being comfortable, thinking about the past and the things that made me happy as a child and kind of working through those. Also bringing in that sense of play. So that could be, coloring or being creative. We know the Empress and the Queen of Cups both bring in that creativity as well. So does the Page of Cups. So that could definitely connect with the 6 of Cups here. Looking at this entire spread here, because I have 3 out of 5 cards that are cups, I could be looking at somebody who is that water zodiac of of Cancer or Scorpio or Pisces. With the 6s here as well, those do represent that harmony and balance, and the 6s also represent that peace as well. So I think that is a really great kind of theme that is really going through these cards here. It's interesting also that the first 2 cards are kind of looking into the past, and my second 2 cards are looking into the future. So I think that is really cool as well. Yes, I really like how these first 2 cards are representing kind of the water and moving on to land as well. I think that kind of shows a really interesting story there too. So it's something you might want to journal about and look a little bit more into. But I think this is a really profound spread to give a try to when you are doing your ancestral work. So another thing that I do with my ancestor veneration is creating an ancestor altar. It's not necessarily tarot related, but I do use my tarot cards and place them on my altars, especially my Spirit Cats deck. I use that quite often on my altar for 2 of my kitties. But an ancestor altar is a great spot if you're looking to do a bit more ancestor work, because it's a special place where you can keep your ancestors and honor them. So this can be indoor, outdoor. You could make a travel altar, place down a nice cloth. You can add photos, mementos, items that belong to them, candles, incense, crystals. I have an offering plate as well, which I will offer food or drink on special days, like perhaps birthdays or, holidays such as Christmas, for example. It's important to keep it clean. If you find you haven't cleaned it in a little while, give it a little dust just like you would your home. You could also spray perfume around your altar. I also use bells, and kind of ring them around the altar as well. You can use this as a spot to speak to your ancestors, to do your ancestor work, and even just to, post mementos and things that mean a lot to you representing your ancestors. So I will post a picture of my ancestor altar that I have in my house. I've also included friends who have passed away on that altar as well, and I often speak to them. Another part of ancestral veneration is, if you're able to, and you know where they're buried, is to keep care of the graves. You can go and clean them, get rid of weeds, place flowers, speak to them, that sort of thing. So that is something that I've been doing for quite some time. On Samhain, I will go to the cemetery and place apples on graves of my loved ones as well, and that feeds their spirit and also will feed the animals in the area, which are important to me. And you can also make your own ancestral card set. So using blank cards, you can find them, on Amazon. You could, find blank tarot size cards or index cards even, getting creative. You can create your own ancestor tarot deck using photos, phrases, or images, things that remind you of the place perhaps where you've come from, meanings of names. You could, if you had farmers in your family, you could include that sort of thing, stuff like that. It would be a great connection to ancestors, and you're also being creative and creating a deck that means a lot to you. So just a couple of books that that I have mentioned. Again, we have Ancestral Tarot by Nancy Hendrickson. So this is a really, really great one if you're looking to work with the ancestors a little bit more with your tarot. I had just gotten this book recently, but I did start reading it. Is Magical Mediumship, so Partnering with the Ancestors for Healing and Spiritual Development by Danielle Dion. And also another really great book is Honoring Your Ancestors, A Guide to Ancestral Veneration by Mallory Vadoy. I think I'm pronouncing her name wrong, but it is also another really great book. I have read it a couple times. I've gotten it out from the library, but I don't own it just yet. But it is a really great book for looking into ancestors. So I hope that you found this episode insightful. I really appreciate you joining me today. And if you have any questions or comments, you can always email me at handsontarot@gmail.com. You can visit my website at susiegorley.com or find me on Instagram at handsontarot. So really, I appreciate you for listening. Thanks for joining me. I'm Susie Gorley, and I see tarot in your future. Thank you.